towns away. Fortunately, the car ran good. The only thing it needed in order to move it to my uncle's place was a jump start, since the battery was so old. I could go on for a long time about all the different couches I crashed on for the next few months. I will just say that I am very grateful to all the people who were generous enough to allow me into their homes, if only for one night at a time. One night in particular comes to mind, though. It was dark. The sun had gone down about an hour earlier, and it was starting to cool off quite a bit. It was overcast and starting to sprinkle. I had lots of people in the area that I could call, and I would have had a ride and a place to stay for the night. But on this particular night, my pride stopped me from making a call. I was tired of feeling like a burden on others and just opted to sit in a phone booth for the night. I was walking along the sidewalk thinking about how tired I was, and my legs were sore from walking so much that day, when I saw the phone booth. Here was a place to take a rest and stay mostly dry, only my legs and feet sticking out would get wet. I was sitting up, leaning into the corner of the phone booth, and with my neck kinked to the side, when a car pulled up to the phone booth. I had been almost asleep, but I slowly stood up and rubbed my neck, as it was really sore from being scrunched in that corner. The person who pulled up to use the phone that night happened to be one of my classmates from junior high and high school. I happened to be sitting in the phone booth nearest to her house, and she had to call an ex-boyfriend and did not want him to be able to get her home number or something to that effect. My friend let me sit in her car while she made the call and then took me to her house. After letting me get something to eat, she gave me some blankets to sleep with on her couch after we chatted for a while. We had not seen each other since high school, and we had a bit of catching up to do. As I was falling asleep under warm, dry blankets that night, I was full of gratitude that my plans and designs are not always what happens, and that God has much better plans for me anyway. Sometime in early April 1996, I got in contact with my stepmom to see how her and my brother were getting along. She said they were living with her boyfriend at his house, and as a matter of fact, the travel trailer her and my brother had been living in Bonnie Lake, was sitting vacant on a piece of property owned by one of her friends. She told me I could stay there if I needed a place to go and not to worry about the power or water, just maybe pitch in if I had any money to do so. Of course, I jumped on that opportunity. No more couches. I now had a trailer to stay in, and that beats out any couch or phone booth. I did get a job as a dishwasher at a local restaurant, which one of my friends was a server at. She was the one that told me the job opening, and she put in a good word for me. I loved having a job and my own place to stay. I did not own the trailer, but it was just me living there. There was a television in the trailer, so I had that to watch when I was not working or going to a meeting. As good as I felt while I was working and trying to save up money, it was to end soon. I was terminated from that job on day number 30, since I had neglected to find a ride down to the health department and get a food handler's card. Yeah, there's my second time. The first time I would have lost. The first time I would have lost that job at Dairy Queen, had I gone on and had, been a day or two longer or whatever. Anyway, going right along. I ran into a friend who I had not seen for a year or so at a meeting on a Friday night in June. I had ridden my bike a few miles to the meeting with the notion that I might be able to get a ride home for myself and my bike, as I had done a few times before. That did not happen. After the meeting, my friend, who was also traveling by bicycle, invited me to his place in Enumclaw to watch movies and hang out for the night. The sun was just about below the horizon, and we had just enough light left to make it to his place before it would have been too dark to ride our bikes along the highway. The stretch of highway between Buckley and Enumclaw is always dark at night, with the only light coming from the headlights of cars or the moon, but it only puts out sufficient light one night a month. When it's a full moon. We made it to his apartment and watched at least 2 movies that night. In the morning, I decided to hang out with my friend for the remainder of the weekend. It totally beat out going back to the lonely little trailer in Bonnie Lake. Well, I used that for the major reason to move in with my friend. After I had been staying with my friend for a couple of weeks, I thought about my car that was sitting at the trailer in Bonnie Lake. Once again, I had to have some help from a friend getting the car started, but we got it moved to Enumclaw. While I was there at the trailer, making sure I was not leaving anything behind, I did take note that the power and water had been shut off. I had forgotten to give the property owner money for those bills, but now it worked out since I was moving anyway. Besides, having someone to talk to and do things with is much better than isolation. This friend and I have so much in common, mainly being that we are both survivors of traumatic brain injuries, so we understand the way each other's mind works, and we are both cyclists. I ended up selling my Toyota Corolla to one of our neighbors, as he insisted on paying for it since he needed parts out of it for his station wagon model of the same car. It worked out for him since he saved a few bucks compared to what he would have spent at the local wrecking yard for the parts he needed. Not too long after I started staying with my buddy in Enumclaw, I started going out with a woman that worked as a courtesy clerk at the store in town where my grandma was a checker. I was in the store often to say hi to my grandma, like at least every other day, if not every day sometimes. I was in the store often to say hi to my grandma, so I was acquainted with the courtesy clerk. We had chatted quite a few times, and I was attracted to her. We started going out, and she hung out at mine and my buddy's apartment with me a lot. As I was involved in my 12-step recovery program and meetings, she got involved in a correlating program for friends and family. My roommate had decided that we should move up in the world, as he only had a 1-bedroom apartment and I was still sleeping on his couch. So we put our names on the list for a 2-bedroom apartment on the other side of town. It turned out the apartment next door came open first, so we moved next door. That was great since I finally had a bed instead of a couch to sleep on. This also meant that my girlfriend could spend the night instead of going home alone every night. In September of that year, my roommate got the call he had previously been waiting on, the call saying that the apartment was open on the other side of town. Being a good guy, my friend let my girlfriend and I take the other apartment while he stayed put. We moved into the apartment and got engaged. Having a host of friends in the program turned out to be a very big blessing, as what we needed for our new place that we hadn't already acquired at a local thrift store was given to us by our friends. Just before we got the place of our own, I had gotten another job washing dishes at a restaurant located inside a local hotel. It was a good job. The restaurant was always busy and I was always getting extra hours. A couple of months later, though, the restaurant slowed down and my hours were cut to just weekends. I simply picked up a second job for Monday through Friday, working at Burger King. I worked both jobs for a couple of months, and as fate would have it, my depression and fatigue crept back up and slammed me down hard. My gut was in a knot. I was feeling down and my energy level was minimal. I thought I was just stressed out from working all the time, but when I went to see my doctor, he informed me that I had clinical depression. I felt like total crap and could not perform my duties at Burger King at that time at the rate the job entails, so I was forced to let that job go. The other restaurant I worked at slowed down to the point that they no longer needed me at all, and they even closed down within the next few months. I had been receiving benefits from the state for a couple of years since my income was so low. While I had been working, my benefits had been lowered from the amount I was getting when I wasn't working. Most months I did not get any cash benefits, but only food stamps and medical coverage. Now that I was not working and only my fiancée bringing in money, not enough for the both of us, I started receiving my full benefits from the state again. I was even appointed a disability adjudicator at the local welfare office to work with my attorney who was fighting to get my SSI, Supplemental Security Income, disability approved. I went through a couple more jobs over the next 2 years, trying to get back into the work mode and bring some more money to the table. On my third night at one of those jobs, another restaurant where I washed dishes, the place was extremely busy with multiple high school sports banquets on that same night. I got totally overwhelmed. It seemed like every time I scrubbed a dish, 20 more dirty ones were brought into the dish pit. This went on for about 2 hours. The kitchen manager eventually came over to me and told me that I was moving entirely too slow and just to get out of there. So I left. For the rest of the night and the next couple of weeks, I was feeling more depressed than usual. I felt like I was a total failure. My performance at work on my last night at that job totally sucked, and it was thrown in my face as I was berated and kicked out the door. I tried to find a job that I could do that was not as physically taxing as working in a restaurant, but to no avail. I even went to an agency of the state that supposedly helps people with disabilities find and keep employment, but I was sent packing. Apparently, I may have misunderstood the question when the guy speaking to the group of us newbies asked, "Is there anyone here who is not ready to go to work right now if I had a job lined up for you?" I raised my hand as I had a doctor's appointment to go to later that day. He said to all of us that raised our hands, "You guys can go then. We only work with people that want to and are ready to work now." So I just went back home and got back to the drawing board, racking my brain to come up with something I could do other than sit idly by while life passed me by. Sure, I was engaged and we had an apartment. I was clean and sober and had a spiritual connection to God. I was still going to meetings and being of service in the fellowship. I had many friends and a lot of family members. I could still ride my bicycle everywhere I went. I had so very much to be grateful for, yet something big was still missing and I could not put my finger on it. And at that, I'm going to wrap it up because time's short. And that's about it. That's it for my show today, my reading out of my book. Yeah, and that's it. So I'm just going to wrap it up by saying I'm grateful that if you're viewing and listening to today's show, and as always, stay kind, optimistic, and grateful, and have a phenomenal day and week. And I look forward to seeing you and being here next week. All right. Have a phenomenal week.